But I'm a psychic. That's my spirituality. I think there's a lot of stereotypes about being a psychic. And a lot of people tell me that maybe that isn't the best word for me to use with my identity or my website, because then you think I'm going to walk up and say, "Oh, I did a red car," and something really spooky. But really, my style is really that I don't stand here and try to zone in on people and get an idea of what's going on psychically in everybody's future. If you think about that, that would be a big drag for me, because I'd be running around with all of your stuff. And we've all got some, and I don't want your stuff. I actually have some of my own. So I very early on, when I felt called to do this, I really have a personal relationship with God in my way, and just said, hey, this isn't working for me. I don't want to stand in the grocery store and know stuff. It makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me feel nosy. It makes me feel out of line. And also, it burdens me. If it's something's wrong, I want to go do something, as we all would feel. You see something happen in Boston, and don't you just kind of wish you were there and you could do something instead of just watching? And so early on, I just said, God, this just isn't working. This makes me really uncomfortable. Could we make an arrangement? I love being a psychic in the sense that I would love to help people. But I want only to have it happen when someone comes to me and says, will you help me with this situation? And then I'll answer them. How about that? And God graciously worked with me on that. So I can hold on to what I have of my sanity and still be really helpful to other people. So, backing up, how this came about, I was passionate in my younger years about my Methodist religion and my Sunday school, and I volunteered and taught the little children what I learned from the Bible and Sunday school. I was very passionate about it. Loved my teen group and all of my Methodist upbringing. Then my mother found religious science, which is a little more of the thought that we're all one. We all have a mass consciousness, and we have the power to influence our lives by our thought. And I freaked. She was blasphemous, and it was awful, because I was in my little bubble of Methodist only. And so oddly enough, at first I judged my mom for getting kind of out of the box there. And I slowly realized it was really more my truth. And now I want to absorb religions kind of like a sponge. If I could take this class now, I certainly would. Because I'm fascinated by all the different beliefs that there are. And the way I vision it would be, if there's a big mountain, and God, by whatever name you might call God, he or she, you could take a lot of paths up that mountain. You could scale straight up the rocks. You could take a beautiful little meandering through the meadows and the flowers. You could, grapple through the mud, or however it is for you. But we're all really seeking something. And we call it different names, and we have different ways of getting there. And hopefully we all get there. That's I guess, my only passion or path is to help people get there to where they have a knowing, a oneness with their faith. And they know that it works for them. So that's what I do, actually, as a psychic. And people come with money problems, medical problems, mental problems, and emotional problems. Biggest thing I would think is probably a relationship, because we're all in relationship. We're in relationship with ourselves from the minute we're born, and we have siblings, and we have parents, and those relationships might bind us for the rest of our lives. They certainly affect us. We go on to have lovers and life partners, relationships. Then we have children of our own, and believe me, they will push your buttons, for sure. And then your parents, and your in-laws, and your friends. Everything's about relationship. So most of the questions that come to me really are about relationships. Whether people know it at first or not, their relationship to money, their relationship to themselves, their health issues, and their family of origin or the family they've gone on to create. So is he having an affair? Is she cheating? Is my child really gone off the deep end? Are they doing drugs? Or do they just not really want me around right now because they're going through that stage? Is my kid autistic? Or is he just a different individual? And so I get, gosh, tons of questions. And is my cancer related to my abortion when I was little? Really young. And is that my fault? Am I damned to hell? Or is there a spirituality or insight you can help me with? And I usually can. To help somebody heal is part of why I do what I do. So a lot of our patterns, and I imagine if you all think about it, your relationships tend to have patterns. You attract the same kind of sort of girl or guy or pattern in your relationships. And you can look at it as, doggone, that person let me down like everybody does. Or you can look at it and say, gosh, I really attract people that let me down. So is there a lesson in there? Is there a message in there? And that's what I try to achieve in my psychic readings, is really more insight into your own soul and relationships. How can I grow from this? How can I embrace it? So I've had some challenges in my life, nothing compared to some of you, I'm sure, and stuff that would, blow you away. It's not been an easy life. But nobody signs up, hopefully, for too much ease, or we're not growing, we're not learning. And that helps us, I think, to seek. I know in my toughest times, when I've just felt crushed, that's when I sought after the truth the most. So in my early 30s, 30-some years ago, I was having a real life challenge. I had a baby. I had another baby, just found out a couple days. And I went to my husband and said, we're going to have another baby. And he said, I don't want to do that. I am not into that. I don't think being a family is really what I meant to do, and I really love you, but there must be something you can do about that. That's not really what an emotional pregnant woman wants to hear. And so I said, well, she's staying. I knew it was a girl. She stays. You have a choice. I made mine. And I was scared. I was really scared. I wasn't working. I was a new mom, and I knew what I faced because I'd already had a baby. So I had 9 months ahead of me and a delivery and babyhood and all that. But I was ready to go it alone. So call me nuts or brave or just whatever, but you can hit the door or not. And he said, I'll stay. I love you. That doesn't always work, but it did for a few months. So then I had 2 babies, and my husband left. During that process, though, that was one of those devastating times in my life. And it brought me to a crisis point where whatever your religion is, really, if you face death in the face, or you face something really that feels like death to you, you're going to say, God, tell me what to do. If you're atheist, I don't know what you do. So I'd love to hear it. But otherwise, you speak out to, do I have an angel out there? Do I have a guide? Is there a God? Because I need some help. And that's what I said. I said, wow, this really sucks. And what should I do, God? Really, what should I do? And so I was praying and meditating and just begging, really, for guidance. I wasn't asking for the circumstances to be changed, though. I was asking for me to be changed. And I think that's a pivotal, it's a really key difference. When life goes to hell, and it will, in some form, hit you that way, if you can say, don't change the circumstances, but help me to be or understand what I need to be to grasp these circumstances, to really get the message here. call it a lesson of personal growth. If you can do that, then I really believe the world just blows open. And you don't get sucked in, but you get blown bigger, or you get broken open. And so that's what happened to me. I started having visions and knowings and full-blown rainbow of things. I could see things in people. I knew stuff. I had, ever since I was a little child, been psychic, but this was different. This wasn't psychic. This was visions. This was somebody's husband got a phone call while I was there. He wasn't home, but she got the phone call. All of a sudden, I knew he was going to apply to be a fireman. He was going to move out of the state. I knew what he should wear. I knew the guys that were going to be interviewing him. And I didn't bargain for that. I was just asking God to tell me what to do about my marriage. I didn't want to impose on my neighbor. She was a close enough friend that I said, okay, here's this thing that's going on with me. I kind of feel like a nut job sharing this with you, but hear me out. And she was amazed, and it helped, and he got the job as a fireman and all that. But it was shortly after that that I said, God, it'd be really convenient if I wasn't spying on my neighbors. That just doesn't feel right. So that's when God and I made that agreement that it would only be by somebody actually asking what they wanted to know, and I would answer that and not be bombarded, unconsciously to the other person by their stuff. And that isn't right. I guess if I have any religious prejudice, it would be other psychics or other religions when someone imposes their religion on me and wants to make me see it their way. And that's probably the only barrier I see in religions, because I don't want to ever do that to anyone else. It's your own path, it's your own seeking. So I guess that's my philosophy as a psychic. That's how I became a psychic, kind of in a nutshell. Interesting things happen as a psychic. As my energy was shifting, I'd be standing in the living room and say, gosh, my grass is getting brown. I guess I need to turn up the water. And the sprinklers would come on. And I would freak, because that isn't what I meant to do. And I can't tell you that I can go out in my yard and start my sprinklers right now. But my energy was shifting. We're vibration. We're energy. So I was like a young child not understanding their muscle and not knowing how to do it. So I intended for the water to come on, but I wasn't trying to make it come on. Does that make sense? No. So you want a parking spot right up front. Have you ever tried that? I'm going to get a parking spot right up front. I need a parking spot right up front. And you don't get it. But other times you go, I'm getting movie star parking. And you just cruise right in, and you're right up front. How did I do that? I want to do it again and again and again. Same thing with the sprinklers. I'd love to do it again and again. And I'd like to do it without a water bill. But I haven't figured out any of that. I have a cool story about my phone number. I pass out my cards. So my phone number is 1-800-KNOWING. Before I was a psychic, I was an accountant, which is like two different worlds entirely. I worked for the Hooked on Phonics as their accountant. So Hooked on Phonics has some experience with 800 numbers and so forth, and that's probably where I kind of got the initial idea. I'm sitting there doing my very boring analytical kind of stuff, and boom, get 800 knowing. And I thought, oh, that would be good for me, right? Because I know things. And I'll get 800 knowing. And I'm sitting there by the phone, and so on the company's dime, I picked up the phone and dialed 1-800-KNOWING. And 1-800-KNOWING said, it's out of service. And for me, that's perfect, right? Because nobody has that number. So I called AT&T, and they didn't have it. Called a different phone company. I don't remember how. It took a while. Find the right phone company that owned the phone number and ask them for it. Thank goodness for Hooked on Phonics and my supervisor, because they said, be cautious going at this. They'll try to get a lot of money from you for the phone number you want. So play coy. The phone number doesn't spell anything, doesn't mean anything. Sure enough, first question. What's it spell? Why do you want it? Today it doesn't spell anything. It's my son's birthday number, and it's going to be easy for people to remember. This was the dinosaur age, okay? No phone, no cell phones. Nobody owned a cell phone. And this phone number had been for parents with college students, so they could call home free of charge. It had come up, the phone company was very curious. This phone number just got released today. How did you get this phone number? I just had an idea to call. And they took all day with me. It was a good thing I knew the FCC regulations from where I worked. I kind of had to push. So just because your life might be directed by Spirit doesn't mean you don't have to kind of get in there and do some of the, the legwork. So I did. I kind of fought with them a little bit and pushed. I knew I was meant to have that number. I wanted that number, and I was going to get it. So I talked them into it. And I've had the number for more than 15 years. I don't know how long. It's been great. No matter where I move, I have clients that can find me with the 800 knowing, and they remember it all these years later. So that's how Spirit has worked in my life, in sometimes the really simple ways of saying, hey, get this phone number, and it's helped. There's been a lot of times, too, where I've gotten spiritual insight and ignored it. And that's not real good either.
We all do that.
We all do that. How many people have had some sort of an intuitive or psychic experience in here, or seen a ghost, or anything? So really not that great of a number, maybe a little less than half. Because I'm kind of nervous, just expressing passion. Gosh, I talked a lot more. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I guess I talked a lot more than I thought I would. I'll tell you a couple more things I do, so maybe that'll give you ideas for questions. I became a psychic because it was my passion. I was always curious about the unseen world. I was always curious. Prayer, meditation, religion, all made sense to me, and I had a passion about it. So it's what I did. And accounting made money, so that was handy too. But this was my passion. So eventually, my passion became my calling. And just being able to say yes to it or embrace it worked for me. Went on to, I love rocks. I look at them and they're, I don't know, they're kind of magical that the universe, God, the earth, would create these crystalline forms or opals and beautiful works of rock. So to me, that's been a love. So I collect them, collect rocks. Then I decided if I'm going to collect them, I might as well have some fun with them. So I became a jewelry designer, just sort of because I would have a rock and I wanted to have someone build a foundation for it so I could wear it. And I like beading, and this passion became just kind of another outlet because I have stacks and drawers and hangers full of jewelry that I made, and for one reason or another felt emotionally attached to, until my friends and neighbors said, you're kind of turning into like a jewelry hoarder here. Why not share it? So I started selling some of my jewelry, more just to have an excuse to buy more stones and more rocks. It's just what I do for fun, for an outlet. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a religious counselor. And I studied all those things just really as they came up in my life. I would do a reading, and maybe someone would be recommended to seek out hypnotherapy, guided imagery, any of the many, many things there are for healing. And then I would go out and want to learn about it. So it was just really following my passions all the way along that led me here.